I am now ready to introduce our first speaker of the morning, Zelda Lockhart. Zelda will be doing the first part of her keynote, and she's calling this Mutual Vulnerability and Community Building, enhancing the way you practice by accessing your personal stories. Zelda holds a PhD in expressive art therapies, an MA in literature, and a certificate in writing, directing, and editing from the New York Film Academy. Her latest book is called The Soul of the Full-Length Manuscripts. Takes a reader on the emotional, psychological, and spiritual journey, utilizing personal stories to transform their lives, while completing a work of fiction, memoir, or poetry. She has authored 3 other books. Let me just tell you a little bit more about her. She is the director at Her Story Garden Studios, inspiring Black women to self-define, to heal, and to liberate through the literary arts. She is also a publisher at LaBenson Press, helping women and girls to take ownership of their stories through publication. She continues to work as a writer and a speaker, facilitating writing workshops across the U.S. on issues specific to the human struggle, and on ways that consuming and creating literature are good for what ails us. Zelda is also a mother, and she shares with many of us the transition of her daughter going off to college just this past September. Please welcome Zelda Lockhart. May you feel the joy inside yourself and awaken to the wonder of your life. May you open your eyes and see this healing touch community gathered here, whose hearts recognize your face as kin. And also together, we bless you and say, welcome!
We always have more time than we think we do. So, I'll put my water there. That's a nice smile. I was just doing that to test the mic. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for welcoming me here. Thank you, Amelia, for being a bridge between me and this lovely room of people. And thanks all of you for bringing your energy to this moment. Yay, there's something there. You can read that throughout if you get bored with what I'm saying.
Where are you?
So I want to open by telling you all a story that came to mind this morning. You know, a lot of times I let myself wait. Which is sometimes complicated for organizers of events. Because they say, send us your PowerPoint. And I'm like, I don't know my PowerPoint yet. So a lot of times I need to have the day, the journey that's going to get me where I'm going, because that informs me. I need to meet some of you, meet some of the people that I met along the way of my journey of getting here. I need to struggle and have resistance and have weaknesses and feel my strength on the day that I'm supposed to be doing whatever I'm supposed to be doing with you. And then I need to consistently listen. So nothing is too much information. So I'm going to tell you this morning, I was about to shower, and I was having a moment. I was like, I left my Dr. Bronner's, lavender hemp soap at home, and this soap stinks. And I was so tired from my flight, and I was trying to listen for all of the things that might inform my talk, and I heard a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to use any of that. And, I was just really feeling it, I was like, I'm jet lagged, and that little bit of Starbucks is not enough. And so, then I started calling on first my daughter, who is 17 and in college, and she was born the boss. And so I heard, her say things to me like, stop complaining about the stinky soap. Use stink works first in the soap. And wash and get ready. And then I really started thinking about. Ask myself, what is the day? Where are you? So time and place. And some of you who have worked with me have heard me talk a lot about time and place. So I asked myself, where are you? And I had to take a deep breath in San Diego. And I'll tell you more about that later, the significance. And then I said, what's the time? It's February. And I had to take another deep breath. So there are stories of life and death, which are the most catalytic events in our lives that push our stories, pushes our behavior, pushes us into what we want to do with our lives, how we want to interact with people, the relationships that we have. Those events, life and death, are the most catalytic. And time and place today, and telling myself to think about those two things informs a story that I want to tell you. So, I was about 7 months pregnant, and doing my everyday. It was my first pregnancy, and February, Norfolk, Virginia, sunny, cold, and beautiful. And I went to my OB appointment. It's funny to say husband because I'm a lesbian and I had to experiment with husband for a month. But my husband was military, so it was off to Portsmouth Naval Hospital for my OB appointment, which I love, because I love I don't know if everybody loves being taken care of, but it was good being taken care of. So I went to my OB appointment, and the lieutenant who was my OB. After my appointment, she came to me in the waiting room, and she said, I'm being taken off your case because I recommended something for you. She said, I think something is not quite right, something is a little off, and something might not be that what you're expecting with your son, because we knew it was a big boy. And I ordered once a week, Monday morning appointments for you to come, which I thought I was going to be coming in here and telling you about for you to come for monitoring. Because I believe that your son has, this is what it was called back then, was fetal growth retardation, which I think now they call fetal stress or something like that. And she said, and I want you to not be on that side of the water all the time, because Norfolk and Portsmouth are separated, by a bay. But to get over here and to be monitored. And she said, and I'm being taken off your case because my superior thinks that's a waste of the military's money. And he looked over, she said, he looked over all of your records and looked over your chart for today and said that he does not believe that. And she said, well, I need to tell you that I think that my daughter would be 10 years old and be here if I had listened to my instincts. So here's what I want you to do. She said, I put the order through. She said, the military is the military. By the time the paperwork catches up, that I let you do these appointments, your son will be like 15 or 20 years old. So she said, I want you to come every Monday, but I want you to know that you won't see me at your appointments. But that's really important that you do that. So I came one Monday, they gel your belly up, they put the monitors on there, you sit there, read a magazine, you watch TV, and they tell you to go home. I came the next Monday, and my husband happened to come with me. He said, I'll come with you too. Gelled up my belly, monitors on, we're talking about life in general, reading magazines, watching TV, getting bored, and a team comes in. And they say, so you need to stay calm. Somebody's going to have a birthday today. I was not quite ready. I was not quite at the 9-month mark. So far away from it, I was about a month and a week or so away from it. And they said, somebody's going to have a birthday. And I said, just talk to me straight. Well, we don't have a heartbeat. So, I sang the whole time. I sang songs. I sang songs that they started thinking about. We're going to have to send her up to the 9th floor. Because I was singing things from childhood. I was like, Will's on the bus girl. But they, very quickly prepped me and everything. And here's the dramatic tension part of the story. Any of you ever been present for a C-section in the room? Oh, that's awesome. Like this whole house and the rest of y'all life. Here's the C-section part. So you all can tell them the story. But anyways, so there I'm in the operating room, and make sure your arms don't move, and you're awake, you can feel the pressure, but you can't feel the pain, and, so they get the baby out, and I'm still singing, and I asked for a mirror. I'm like, please hook up a mirror. I need to see what's going on, And so all of this is happening, and trying to distract myself from what might be the truth in terms of being at the shore. So me being at the life-death line, where there's, that's what the shore is. It's the place where the most life happens and the most death happens, right here where the waves come in and come and go. And so they haven't, and I don't hear anything. And I said, bring him to me, please bring him to me. And so they hold him upside down, where I am. And I said, Travis! And his eyes So, yay! So he will be, next week, he will be 33 years old. He was born February 10th, the same birthday that my sister has, one of my older sisters. And he has 2 children, so I have 2 grandchildren. And that will be trusted her instincts. It's funny when I don't cry, my nose runs. So her nose starts running, they'll be like, man, she's a really sloppy speaker. Her nose was running. She used the wrong soap. But that will be her own personal wounds that she was aware of, that she brought forward, that she brought to work with her that day. Good for her. Good for her for using her own personal story. She brought her personal story into her professional space. And so a lot of the work that I do is with individuals who are writing, who are in contact with other people in their healing professions, who are police officers, who are people who have to work where they're having relationships with other people. Dang, that's all of us, right? Because we also have relationships with people in our households. We have relationships with ourselves when we're trying to accomplish something in this world. So the work that I do is to help people to take their, what I call personal plot, and to have enough awareness of that plot, and to keep investigating that plot, and to bring it forward as a walking meditation in their everyday lives, so that they aren't leaving any part of themselves. Oh, isn't that awesome? I love that part of the meditation, you know. The right words, the right Kleenex, the right so, you know, to help people to bring that forward in their lives, because the things that we don't know can possibly be happening or that might need to happen when we don't know our own stories and we don't even know how it is that we are impacted by something that someone at work is doing that might be getting on our nerves, that one of our clients might be triggering us, or one of our clients might be making us feel more full. It's such a wonderful thing when we can have our hands on that story and know how we can apply it and what we can do with it. So, which sometimes means enhancing what you do, and it also sometimes might mean stepping away from certain aspects of what you do, because you realize you don't have to struggle with that anymore, that part isn't good for you. So, what do I mean by personal plot? So, something happened, wounding event. So we have lots of wounding events in our lives. For that OB, one of her wounding events was that it was a death. You know, that she had lost her daughter. So something happens, a wounding event. And from that wound, we lose something. As always happens with impact, right? You know, there's impact, and from the impact, things are lost. And because things are lost, we want something. And it's that want that gets carried around in cyclical, thematic, motif, motivation in our everyday lives and in the relationships that we have with people and why we do what we do, even why I do what I do and how I do what I do, is the result of me wanting something that I have lost from some wounds. And then the other parts of the personal plot are that things help. You know, there are agents. I heard Dorothy say earlier, maybe it wasn't Dorothy, but we're all one, right? Someone said sitting here earlier that someone else also helped you. Oh, yes, you said. Some other people have also helped you to be here, you know. So we have things that are agents, things that help us to get what we want. And then there are things and people that get in the way. Don't they know? But then there's something about identifying, you know, as we were just led in our previous meditation, of being able to, there's forgiveness, but forgiveness intellectually is not quite enough unless we can sort of release that person from blame of how they're getting in our way, but instead know in our own personal plot why they appear to be getting in our way. It's because there's something we want. And whatever it is that they have going on in their lives appears to be getting in the way of what we want. We can identify that, we can do things with that. We can shift ourselves. We can't really shift them, but we can shift ourselves. We can circumnavigate. We can self-fulfill our wants. We can take the agents that appear to be helping us get what we want. We can collaborate more with them. We can have more of a jet stream and fluidity to what we want. There's more to the plot. Then there's revelation. You know, and that us having revelation, which is what I'm just talking about, is a different way of looking at how we're wounded. A different way of looking at how to get what we want, and to take responsibility for healing ourselves. Which means you have discernment of what will help you heal and what is not good for you. I like doing that. You know, how to just move things in yourself, move yourself this way a little bit, move the scope and tension of something else out of the way. Sometimes we have to take people and we have to say, I don't want you out of my life, but I need to change your positioning. You can't be my best friend because you don't like gay people. What am I going to do with that? You know? I love you. And that's two things that are true at the same time that appear to be in opposition to each other. I love you. And you don't really know what to do with gay people. So I have to change your positioning. Otherwise, I will be in a place of daily participating in my harm. But if I move you to community member, you will scream and holler and be really upset with me, but it'll feel good to me for you to be here. So I'm going to move where you are in my solar system. And when we have that kind of awareness, we can do things like say to our patient, to our client, I'm not going to be on your case anymore, because that's how things operate around here, and I have been moved off your case, but I'm going to tell you something because I have a wound that I do not wish to see exacerbated and repeated, and I'm going to offer you something that appears to be outside of the boundaries of what my professional, the book that I signed when I came in on this job, says about, the personal and the professional space. I'm going to go out of the bounds of that a little bit. Because with my humanity, I need to let you know that better safe than sorry. Come to these appointments. I know how the system works. They won't know about these appointments. They'll be retired by the time they decide to fire me. So that is one of the ways that you can, that OB was walking with her personal story. So easier said than done, because a lot of people who I encounter, almost all of them, we have resistance, and we should. We live in a world where we are so psychological that we are beautiful enough to be psychological enough to do amazing things with what we know, like teach each other how to meditate, like offer each other the points of light of how to connect with other people and how to make beautiful stories, how to make healing, how to offer each other that. So that's a wonderful psychological thing that we can do. We also, and I won't say we, meaning all humans, we also know how to take information and to harm each other. We also know how to say, oh, I can intuit what you are afraid of. And if I can intuit what you are afraid of, I can control you. Because all I have to do is threaten your existence, your shelter, your ability to eat, your ability to take care of yourself or your family, or threaten the existence of someone you love. And I have full control of you. You will do what I say. So we're also psychological like that. So I'm going to say one thing, and I'll hold it here, and then I'll say another thing and hold it here. So on the one hand, we often find ourselves, like I was saying, lots of the people that I work with, saying, I don't really want to or need to get all down in my pain and all the stuff that I've been through in order to do my job well. I don't want to do that. I don't need to do that. Why exacerbate my own wounds? Why would I want to do that? And then on the other hand, we have some awareness that our discernment, which is the main thing that gets lost with the impact of wounds, that our discernment is off in certain areas of our lives because of our wounds. We kind of know that in some kind of way. And we want that discernment back. So one of the ways to get at that discernment, I call it spelunking, is to take some of the agents, or people who you perceive to be agents, like other people in the helping profession, to take them and say, can I tether my rope to you? Can I schedule a once a week appointment? Because I'm going to write once a week. I'm going to write down my personal story. And right after I write, I want to come to you for some Reiki, or I want to come to you to do talk therapy, or maybe it's your minister. I want to come to you and just be in your space and we can have a conversation about what I'm going through so that I can tie my rope to you and then I can go deep, 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 deep into my own cave to get my own personal jewels out. Those jewels that I know will be gifts for me and for other people, but I know I might get lost in there. I might go around some dark corners and not know where I am, but I want to be able to pull on the rope, and because you're my agent, I know you will help pull me out. So I'm just saying all that for your comfort level, for the work we will do later, for those of you who are taking the Hope and Fear workshop and the Relationship Museum workshop. So hold those things. Hold those ways and reasons why it's good for story to be part of whatever it is that you do out there in the world. And I want us to be able to do a fun little, well, I think it's kind of fun. I don't know if you'll think it's fun. But there's this way that once we have all of that holding and discernment, that we can use that information to be able to connect with other people. Just like that OB, she is forever connected to me. I love that thing about the 7 generations forward and the 7 generations back. Because with her one action, there are grandchildren. And my grandchildren will have grandchildren because of that woman's one action. She created connection with me that is forever. And there are so many ways that our stories do that, and it's anonymous. I will tell you in closing out this part that I was in recovery. Recovery from a C-section is, I'm going to try not to cuss. That was a long time ago. My body hurts just thinking about it. But I was in recovery, and she came and she peeked her head in, and she just smiled. And her and I got to revel in the power of her knowing, and her exercising her knowing, and her stepping beyond the boundary of this is how I'm wounded, and into what can I do with how I'm wounded, and then walking with that every day, and listening for and hearing when to speak, and doing that. So I want to close this little section by saying that our stories and the ways that if we let ourselves walk with them, we anonymously impact so many other people's stories and so many other people's lives. Yeah. Now, hello. That was part of the act. So you all came in, and you might not know this, but there's a stack of little strips of paper, and there should be at least 10 at every table. So you're going to need that strip of paper, and you're going to need a pen, or a pencil, or a crayon. While you all are getting adjusted, I'll do a commercial. These handy-dandy texts about life can be found in the Silver Diplomat manuscript. You too can own a copy. So all of the things that I'm talking about, and the work and the diving deeper and using personal story to do that can be found in that book. And afterwards, I'll be doing the book signing in the room where we are as vendors. So, okay, everybody got a piece of paper? Awesome. Okay, so on your piece of paper. paper, I want you to write down something that happened. It can be something that happened today. It can be something that happened on your way here, maybe. It can be something that happened in your life. It can be as mildly catalytic as, you know, got stranded in Baltimore for 4 hours because of a bicycle. That's mildly catalytic. It didn't severely impact my life. It can be as profoundly catalytic as a birth, like the one that I just told you about, or a death. So, my brother, the last time I was in San Diego, was to visit my brother, who lived here in San Diego. A month and a half after our visit, he was adventurous. He was in Cancun for his birthday, and he drowned in the Riptide. Yes, so it can be as profoundly catalytic event or a mild catalytic event. It could be yesterday. This is not true of me, but it's true of somebody. Yesterday, my first grandchild was born. Now that's not true of me. My grandson would say, "Nana, you're lying." But just write in that way, just like a bullet, an event in your life, and just put it down there on that little sheet of paper. Okay, did everybody do that? Anybody need more time? Just raise your hand if you need it. Anybody need these? And I made some little strips of paper because I think that's the state of it. Because misunderstandings are really beautiful. You know, somebody might be like, "Oh, she's, you know, pulling the manuscript. Okay, you're ready to write the novel." You know, it's like, no, we're just gonna bullet that. Okay, you got it? Fabulous. Now, I want you to pass your piece of paper to somebody at a different table. Just trade with them. Don't read it. Fold it in half. And trade it with somebody else, not the same person who you got it from. Just trade it in.
It doesn't say much.
You get some leaves up here.
See.
But one of the things that you just demonstrated was a willingness to be vulnerable. I didn't see anybody get up with their sheet of paper and run out of the room. Which is, you guys really demonstrated that you're willing to share the events in your life with other people, even if you don't know who's the recipient or how it might impact them. So now, if you would open them and read them to yourselves and ask yourself, what did you remember of your own stories or events in life, or something that it reminded you of? What did it help you to remember? And, for those of you like me who are incredibly literal thinkers, be careful not to be like, last night I burned a pot of beans, and be like, well, I never burned any beans. So, it doesn't mean anything to me. But maybe it means something else to you about burning something, or about a pot of beans, or about maybe your aunt who, that's all she would bring over for Christmas was a pot of black beans every year. So, just ask yourself, what did you remember when you saw the story, when you saw the event? And then a few volunteers to say, this is what I read, and this is what it made me remember. Yeah. Oh, this is where we need the roaming mic thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that.
You really? Okay.
I read A Birthday Present from Ben, the conference. And what it made me think of, I'm gonna cry. Sorry, I'm gonna cry. Was receiving a bracelet that had belonged to my grandmother from my dying aunt in her last days. And that aunt had previously tried to prevent me from inheriting anything from my grandmother. So this was a very powerful and beautiful reminder for me.
Thank you. Thank you. And I saw a couple hands up here. We just keep passing it along, and then we go over here.
It says, landing on arrival, 3 attempts due to fog. Here's synchronicity. We had 1 failed attempt due to fog, and I ended up in Las Vegas. Check down. So, we got here that night, but I have something in common with this person.
It's very synchronous. I got a note. I endured 10 years of infertility treatments, and what I had written, that's not me, that's somebody else, but I had a son at age 38 after infertility of 15 years. Wow. There were 2 words on my grandfather died. When I was 5, brought me right back to when I was 5, and my grandfather died. And I was thinking of my father and how he must have felt, because we didn't really get along. And I was just thinking about him before we wrote. I didn't write about that. So, and I always felt that my grandfather was my guardian angel. So it's lineage stuff.
It's good to have you here. Yeah. Maybe one more over here, and then we'll pass it to the C-section side of it.
Mine says July 97, developed Bell's palsy, and I have had the privilege of treating a gentleman with Bell's palsy and watching him heal. So that A, reminded me of the power that goes through me, and B, lets the person that wrote this know that there is hope and healing out there.
God's comics. I picked up one that said Donnie's diagnosis. My dearest friend, it would be her birthday in just a very few days, 3 or 4 days. And 8 years ago, she died from cancer. She's always with me. And I'm sure everyone here has a story of someone they love who's had that horrible diagnosis. But what also gives us the opportunity, as I took my theatrical background and I did her face so she looked like she really had hair, and we bought sparkly baseball caps, and she'd tell me, you need to just come hold my hand, because she wasn't into this voodoo stuff. But I was allowed to use it to give her some comfort. And I think Donnie's diagnosis reminded me that much as I loved her, she's now gone, and I can still comfort others. Thank you.
The one that I got said, my dog was killed by another while sitting beside me at the beach. And I lived in Southeast Alaska for a couple of years, and when I first moved up there, my dog was killed by antifreeze put on a dead salmon on the beach by somebody who hated dogs, and it took him 5 days to die.
Mine said the day I found out my sister had cancer and my brother had cancer, and he's doing quite well, but the whole process brought us much closer together as siblings.
Mine had 3 powerful words. It says, Jack was born. And a moment, I'm getting verklempt. It reminded me of my son, Dominic, who was an emergency C-section, and they told me they didn't know how I carried to term. And he was also early. And he has been a Spitfire ever since that day. So happy tears.
Mine says, I retired from 2 years of being a nurse and spent the next 6 months taking care of my 93-year-old mother. Well, I had to quit my job last year, and my mother turns 93 in a week, and I'm taking care of her, and I thought, I'm not alone.
Yeah. Read one more.
The one I got says, my husband was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2012, and my husband was diagnosed with lymphoma in 2008, which he recovered from. He healed from that, but he didn't have 17.
Yeah. So, there are amazing. What y'all doing over there? There are all of these ways in which the things that have happened to us, that when we tell those stories, it's kinship, and sometimes food and medicine for other people. For people, we don't know how it's going to impact them. We don't know that this just happened to them too. Or that if we offer them what just happened to us, Sydney asked me right before we started, what if I knew before, what if I'd seen this person or been able to help and heal this person a week before, a month before? So sometimes we can't do that. We can't roll that sometimes. We can't do that. We can't go backwards. But what we can do is have the courage and the vulnerability to let our stories go ahead and connect with other people by letting down the walls of shame that might be keeping us from telling our stories, so that we can offer them to other people when we can, when they do come to us, so that we can have that reciprocity of the story that I offer you may help someone else, and so on and so on and so on. And I don't even know who they are, but I have the courage to make myself vulnerable, as you all just did. You didn't know who was going to end up with your sheet of paper. You didn't even know that I was going to ask you to pass the sheet of paper, but you saw the impact that it has on other people. But let yourselves, with your stories, and when you are reminded of your stories, let yourself ask yourself, and this is a self-investigation thing that only you can carry out, what will I do with this story within my healing practice? Will I write it down and it will be an introduction on my website, as Amelia does? Will I make sure that when I see clients in a similar type of distress that I tell them my truth? What will I do with my story? So we're going to have a Q&A, but that's it. Take a deep breath in. That was a lot, wasn't it? Yeah. And there's more later. Yeah. So what do you want to know? Yeah.
I would like to know more about your story in terms of how you came to what you do.
Yes.
If you fall into the trust.
I'll paraphrase until she gets the mic.
Trying to do that, but so
I am also a lover of story, and I like to say I'm a social scientist at heart. I really enjoy story, and everyone's story. And sometimes I feel like I should be quiet, because I love sharing my story too, right? My good friends. So I sat down. But I am so curious, because I feel like it would help us understand more about what you're trying to share and offer us if you put it in the context of how you came to do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll read to you a paragraph, just because I think it's a little more fun than just saying, oh, yeah. Here's my major wound, my major want. When I was a child and it rained in the summertime, I watched from the open window. I could smell the way the dry concrete absorbed the first drop and how much that smell was like the smell of chalk. Then I would watch and wait until the rain stopped and would go out into the yard. Even on the west side of St. Louis, the rain refreshed the parched streets, the vacant lots, and brought back the brightness of the color green. I would go to the bulging green milkweed pods and watch what one could only watch in early summer after a rain. The drops rolled down, resisting the tight green skin of the pods, and in each drop there was a universe. When I was done observing what the rain had created, I found a good puddle, went to my stash of jelly jar tops near the basement door, and I made a full spread of mud pies. I was 5 years old, and this is how I survived the secret molestations inside the ironic safety of my childhood home. Nature was a safe place that held the lessons of life and was my inspiration, where I created mud pies and other metaphorical foods. And later that turned into a cycle of writing to create and express myself and to be in a place, in a space where I could hold myself and hold other people in a way that we could not only connect over our joys and pains and our hopes and our fears, but that we could connect in such a way that we could then, as I talked about solar system before, is that we could begin to move out and understand our own stories way far out beyond our own personal solar system. And so with the times that I began reading from my own works. I used to read at poetry readings, which my first poetry teacher, who was Toy Derricott, she was my first, I felt like, true poetry teacher. She wouldn't let me just write that clever stuff because, you know, I was read at coffee shops and, you know, I had a little book and everybody thought I was hot shit, you know. But she said to me, you know, like, you know, that's clever, but what is the story that's beneath all of that that you are not sharing with people? Because that's the art. That's the connector. That is the thing that means you are doing your artwork. And once I started doing that, I started discovering and realizing so much more about my own psychology and inner workings and humanity and how other people's inner workings, and got more and more and more and more and more curious. And so that path of investigation has led me to a place where everything that is of me, my love of nature and how it has been agenting in my life, my love of stories that I have taken in, and stories that I offer others, that has been agenting in my life, and my just absolute joy of connecting with the part of humans that makes us all 5 years old. You know, where it's like before we get titles and shit, you know. But where we're just 5-year-olds, we want to play, we want comfort, we want to be nurtured, provided for, and protected, and we just want to have that in our lives, you know. So that's a long answer that might have answered some other questions of other people too. That's a long answer to a very short question, long answer. That's kind of how I operate.
I just want to say thank you. This woman is the one I tethered myself to. And in hearing this, I realize that because I died, I understand that you will live. Because I know it in my gut. I know what it is to go so deep that you're dead, and to grow up. That's my work. You will not go down on my watch and my feet. And she called my stories clever too when I first met her. Like, that was clever. And it, you know, just, you know, took something to really get to the truth, and I realized how much it informs that just of who I am for people. So thank you.
Time for about maybe two more questions. I feel like this side is just not getting enough time. Maybe one over here and then one over here.
So,
yes.
Oh, now you can really hear it. As Healing Touch practitioners, at the end of our sessions, we often make suggestions for self-care. And journaling is a big one. And so do you have any suggestions for how to encourage our clients to journal their experience of the session or of what might be underneath things that come up?
Yeah. So some of this might be already familiar to some of you, is I call it checking in and checking out. You know, so there's to create a process for them for their journaling. So what I do when I have write-ins with people is we do this in the write-in, but then I also tell them to do it on their own. Is when you go to do your journaling, is that you check in by connecting with some other story. A lot of times we'll open up Women Who Run with the Wolves, or I have people bring their own thing that they want to use as the check-in, so that we can all touch down in someone else's personal story that they have been able to bring forth. So we check in that way and then see all of the ways that it makes us feel, like I said, tethered to something that already is and has already been shared, that survived that, so that we won't feel like when we start journaling and going deep, that we're just going to get lost, and a lot of people get scared that they'll get triggered and start having flashbacks or something. You know, so you can say to them, we're checking in, and we're going to hold on to this person who told their story and are stronger for it, you know, and then we check out. You know, so tell people when they check out, if they're by themselves in their journaling, to check out by saying, you know, that they have some friend, create some circle around you beforehand, of somebody who says, oh yeah, you can call me, or you can text me after you have journaled, and let me know where you're at and what it is that you feel like you discovered in your journal. Because that's a way of touching base again with somebody else, so that after you have been doing that deep work, you don't feel like, oh my gosh, now I'm just floating out here, untethered, and I feel lost, and like I might get more triggered, and rather than just being healing, it might be more damaging. Because one of the, I don't know if you all know J.W. Pennebaker's work with expressive writing, one of the things that's been found, and so in the research that I have been doing, is ways to create so that people aren't just making themselves raw, and then they're walking around raw like that, but that they have some kind of way of coming back, you know, and having either closure or just enough kind of like grounding again to feel like that they're going to be okay. So that's one of the things that you can do with your clients. It's one of the things that we did here. So I used the middle part as when you all needed a Kleenex. And then sort of got us back grounded and laughing and, you know, thinking about story and say the Q&A and everything after that to get you intellectual again, bring you back up to the surface, because we do operate sometimes on the logical and intellectual surface, because we have to. And there's puzzles to be solved, and so we need to do that. So hopefully that's helpful. Is that helpful to you? Yes. To check in, have them check in and check out. If they're working with a group, you can do that. If they're working individually, you can remind them of ways that they can do that. Yeah. And then there's someone, we'll do one over here, and then we have to be done. Yeah. Oh, I'm good. So what, is that everybody else was done? Was there anybody over here? Okay, here?
I didn't really have a question. I just. Thanks so much. I had a comment, I guess, with this whole thing that we just did.
Is this close enough? I just felt like in this exercise, and how you just explained the coming in and coming out, or checking in and checking out, that I just identified a place that I need to tap into more deeply with somebody in the tethering.
Yeah.
Because it just opened up. I see that I don't feel raw per se, but I know that there's work that needs to be done in this space. So I just wanted to say how powerful that was.
Yeah.
That little exercise that we did with these papers, and thank you.
You're welcome. So 2 things as we close out. One, I have a favor to ask anyone at my table, but I'm trying to remember names. Evelyn, would you do me a favor? So there's a green bag right where I was sitting, and unzip it. I'm okay with that. I always get nervous when I say that to people because my mother, she's 83 now. She's carried guns all of her life. When we were kids, she would say, "Can you reach into my bag again?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. I want to count that gun. There's not a gun in there, but there's a little satchel in there. It appears to be gold, but you know, it's like fake gold. It's like a little gold, little bag." No, not that. That's from Hawaii, though. I love that bag. Big deep. So there's 2 things I want to leave you with. And as you read in the book, when you're in the book, you'll notice that I always say things like caution or note. And so here's a caution for us as people who practice with other people. When you dig deep and you find and you're working within and working with your stories, here's a caution. Try to find ways to investigate it and use it in some of the creative ways that we talked about to help progress your relationship with them. You can throw, let's see if it'll, let's see. It doesn't weigh much, but let's see what happens. Ready? Throw it! Whoa! So, there's one way that you can do the work that you need to do and find ways to progress your relationships with other people. Be careful not to all of a sudden, you know how we know something and then we become the master of something? You know, we kind of get like this about it and then we don't want to, and then what we do is we begin to tell other people about themselves. Like, I see that you look like you need to go deep. And then that we haven't shared with them anything, so they're kind of like, okay, well, you're the authority. Okay, I guess I will. But the thing that I'm talking about is mutual vulnerability that creates a reciprocity that's a lot like breathing with your clients, where they know you and you know them. And in our traditional westernized realities, we've gotten out of practice with that. But in each of our, so if you go back 7 generations in your own ancestry, in each of our individual ancestries, there is the reciprocity of the healing power of mutually vulnerability and sharing stories. So be careful not to take this and westernize it and suddenly become the authority. Be willing to answer the question. If one of your clients says to you, how do you know that? Okay? That's just a question. Now, what you just did, those little pieces of paper, everywhere I go, and I do this work, for 20 years, I have been collecting these little sheets of paper. And I separate them. I do fun things like put some of them in a bag, some of them are in baskets. And there's this amazing collection of the events of people's lives from all over. And then I continue to share those. And so I thought, with this being such a large room, that you all could create your own bags. Are you sticking yours in your pocket? I was going to say, we don't have to have another church meeting before I leave. So if you would fold up your little sheet of paper, and now I need a bag. Thank you. And you can actually just, you can leave your little sheet of paper, leave it in the middle on the table. And I'm going to keep all of these, and they're going to become part of this collection, so that people, some of the ones that are in here are from people in Chapel Hill last week, and so those are here. Yours will come and join the big basket of ones from. I have some from Ghana. You know, I have them from all over, any place that I've ever been. So that any place where I go, where there's a moment where I can say, let's share from this. I call it grab bag or storyboard. Let's share from the storyboard. And they can pull out an experience of someone else's and open it and let their experience be inspired and remembered. This one says, my 10-month-old boy's birthday is this month. You know, so we can have all of these amazing human connections through telling our truths, even if it's just one statement at a time. So thank you so much for playing with me.